Welcome to the ISM Career Chat podcast, where I will talk with industry professionals about their expertise. Don't forget to hit the follow button to get your dose of career stories and industry tips.
And to get better at things, you have to actually do them. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're not going to do them. You're not going to get better. And somebody who doesn't care about that is going to get better at it.
Today, our guest is Džiugas Vaitkus, and he will share his career story of how he went from working at sales and affiliate marketing at North Security to becoming the chief operating officer at Myriad Capital. How are you, Džiugas?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well, good myself as well. So I want to ask you, from doing sales and affiliate marketing at North Security and NordVPN, how did you become the chief operating officer at Myriad Capital? Walk us through your career path. What happened exactly?
Well, I think whenever you're put into a position that's a C-level position, right? You're never ready. You're never ready. And that's, I think I went here. So that's just like a short disclaimer before like walking you through my path, right? So whenever you're like in that sort of position or you're put in that position, you're never particularly ready, because there's no CEO training, no COO training, and generally no CMO training that ever happens. So eventually you get put in that position. Either you pursue it or you're offered that position. So the way that it happened for me, it just happened very naturally and gradually. So, you know, I was working in sales, I was working in marketing, and then I met with the CEO of Myriad Capital. We had a brief, short conversation at first, and then a couple more meetings. And the way that it happened is he said that he envisioned this particular position for me, right? So, but he was looking for someone. I just put my name out there. And of course, I had to present what I would do, my perspectives on business. But I think generally people don't understand or recognize that whether you work in product, sales, or et cetera, eventually it all boils down how well you understand the fundamentals. Because the higher you go, the deeper you have to dig into the fundamentals. So I was just working in sales. I was working in affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
And I started just understanding the nature of the business, right? And I think that's the main thing that helped me, understanding the fundamentals and looking past the surface, going on a deeper level. And I think that's needed at this sort of a position at a company.
So, as you said, when you were gathering the fundamentals and learning the best that you could, when you transitioned from sales and affiliate marketing into COO,
yeah, of course,
was it a difficult transition? Because in the workplace, it's a really big myth that like, it's really hard to go from something like sales into a high position.
I wouldn't say that. So I wouldn't, I don't know. I've never actually heard that myth, but I wouldn't say that this transition is going to be easy for anybody. So I went here to ISM. I remember right before 2 weeks before starting, I was here. I met with Ben and I asked him for some advice because he was one of my favorite professors when I was here. He, of course, didn't remember me, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, he did. He says, I remember your face, but I don't remember your name. And he told me that you're never going to be ready. That's what you're going to feel like you're always not ready. And I think that's a big thing for any position that you pursue, right? And maybe it's a problem if you feel too ready. So regarding the myth, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's particularly a myth because it is a difficult transition, but usually not because you lack knowledge. You definitely lack knowledge, probably, unless you worked at a company for like 20 years. You know the ins and outs already, right?
Of course.
But if you're moving to a new company, right? But the bigger problem is the shift in the responsibility that you carry from now on is just tremendously bigger. It's just a way bigger load that you have to carry, right? On your shoulders, and so many more things and so many more people are now going to point the finger at you, right? And not maybe, let's say literally, but the expectation is there. The fundamental expectation is there. So I think you have to understand the responsibility shift and what is expected from you and the results and what you have to deliver it's a fundamental change. When you're you're just as not a particularly good expression, but when you're working at a specialist level, that's the level of competence and in terms of responsibility that is required from you. It's a big shift. So I think that's the bigger problem, right? Because you're gonna have to get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Gonna have to work hard, right? And you're gonna have to understand what's gonna change or what impacts the company. But so many people, and I've spoken with a lot of my friends and colleagues that moved into this particular position, right? And it's the responsibility that is, I'd say maybe challenging for somebody that's doing it for the first time. And you have to work through that. So the myth, whether it's a myth or not, it's not going to be an easy transition, but you shouldn't expect it to be. You should prepare yourself for that. So that's my takeaway.
Well, one thing I actually want to talk about, you mentioned the enormous responsibility that you start having as a consequence of getting a promotion like this.
Yeah, of course.
But what I want to actually delve into details here is what experience and what skills from sales and affiliate marketing helped you deal with that responsibility exactly?
Well, I think the main skill, right, and it's once again a fundamental understanding, right? So you have to understand that if you work at a private company and if you work in sales or marketing, you do understand the fundamental pillars that drive the company forward. And it's usually revenue. You're bringing in sales, right? So if you take that mindset and you bring that to your position and you make sure that all of your decisions have impact on that, that's already really helpful, right? To sell yourself in this role, to sell yourself that you're doing really well, right? And just maybe showcasing that you're putting in the right effort that is impactful.
Yeah.
So what really helped when I was working at sales and marketing or affiliate positions, right? It's a very, I'd say, straightforward way of working. You have to bring in revenue. You have to bring in money for the company, new customers. So once you understand that fundamental thing, right, you bring that with you everywhere. Now, if we're talking about like maybe if we could get granular here and talk about like things that are, I specialized in working with people, right, and negotiating and analyzing numbers. Now that's particularly important, especially the soft things, right? The negotiations that you had to do externally while trying to bring in sales, now you have to do them internally, pushing through specific initiatives or working with your team or et cetera, et cetera. So those skills are really valuable, right? Knowing to negotiate, knowing how to sell, knowing how to lead a team or work with a team or understand the archetypes of people that work with you. So I think just to quickly recap, so the fundamental understanding that sales drive business, bring that with you wherever you are in product, marketing, customer service, whatever. And the higher up you go, the more impact you're going to have to bring to the company in regards to that. And then soft skills, negotiation, sales, understanding how to work in a team, invaluable.
I see. You previously also mentioned the turning point where you had a brief conversation with the CEO of Myriad Capital.
Yeah.
What other turning points were there in your career path?
I think just generally in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. So overall in my career, I think I've had several turning points that really helped me out, and I think one of them was actually joining ISM. Because I had a gap year and I was working at a company called Transcom, customer service, doing customer service there. And a colleague of mine really encouraged me to join this university. And I think the biggest mindset shifts happen here in terms of understanding business, theoretically, practically, and just understanding the environment, the academic environment, and then just also being in business. But I think the biggest career shifts happen from my mistakes, reflecting on my mistakes. So a lot of that happened during sitting at home because it was COVID, sitting at home, getting feedback. So 3 or 4 times I I had to, let's say, maybe reassess the way that I was looking at things. And those shifts in my career usually happen from trying something, failing while doing it, getting feedback.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 times, I think I had to look in the mirror and maybe adjust a little bit.
Okay. When talking about like personal growth,
Of course.
what were some of the aspects that helped you with your professional growth in the workforce?
Oh, well, this is going to sound really cheesy, but
Yeah.
as I grew older, I started realizing the impact of getting a proper night's sleep on my work. And that's kind of funny, but it really changed so many things for me. Personal growth, I think your career and your personal life, whether you want it to or not, is going to overlap.
Of course.
So in terms of when I was improving my relationships with my friends, my health, I really actually spent a lot of time learning how to focus. And I think that's a big problem for the youth these days, and it was for me, and I know for other people. I spent a lot of time learning how to focus, and that just did tremendous value. That just, brought in tremendous value for my career. So whatever you're doing personally and working on yourself, it can affect your work life in a positive way. And we have to understand that it can go the other way around. Whenever you're struggling with something, which is completely fine, right? You're going through something, a learning period, you're learning about yourself, your mistakes. It also affects your work in some way or another. So I think it's just a great thing to look at yourself and focus on some personal development. So, personally, if you want me to be specific, I actually fixed my sleep, which was just amazing.
Yeah.
I started the working on my focus. I wanted, instead of just like doing 20-minute sessions, I really made it a point to knock out 2 or 3 1.5-hour uninterrupted sessions during the day. And just when you realize how much deep work, you're just amazed at the end of your day, like, wow, I did that in 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
I can't believe that I used to spend like 20-minute spurts and then just sitting on social media. So you could really up your game, and that helps you in your personal life as well.
Okay, so let's transition a bit into your, industry-specific
Of course.
Things, and let's talk about, to people who don't have a lot of experience in finance or investing, what would be some of the simple tips or tricks that you would want to tell people before they start investing?
This podcast is followed by students right now, mostly, right?
Yes,
Am I correct?
ISM students.
All right, so let's maybe focus on this specific demographic, right?
Yeah, of course.
So investing in your career is something that it really bodes well for you if you take a look at it responsibly. If you, because these are 2 things, right, that are going to give you monetary value, increase your career earnings. So when talking about investing, people need to understand and just maybe drop the notion that, I'm gonna, some people believe that they can play this game without actually having the proper knowledge. So you have to realize there are safeguards and a lot of risk associated with investing.
Of course.
So when you go into it without knowledge, you wouldn't go into any other profession without knowledge or without doing proper research and make, let's say, specific actions, right?
Yeah.
Just because you read about something online. But people do so in their investment journey. They think they know this stock. They think they know this crypto. Whenever you're starting out as a young person or as a student, you have to understand that you need to assess your risk. How much risk can you tolerate? That's like the main thing, and I'm drilling it in every interview that I'm invited. Everybody assesses their risk incorrectly. So you need to understand how much risk you can tolerate. What does that mean? That means that How are you sleeping at night when your stock is down 10%? How are you sleeping at night when your stock is down 50%? And so on and so on. How much can you tolerate? What is your strategy? What is your strategy? Is it a long-term strategy? Maybe you don't need to sort of hop in and start buying stocks right now. What is your financial plan for the upcoming 5 to 10 years, right? Because you're probably not earning enough to make a huge difference in your life unless you get really successful day trading stocks and et cetera, right? And you strike gold. But other than that, you don't have to, you have to understand that you need a plan. You need a plan. You need to read up on the financial markets, on the financial instruments. And that's what we do at our company. We help people out to start off, right? We give them like the basic tools, the necessities, just to maybe understand what sort of risk is associated with investing and what do you need to know. So I think everybody should start there. First, understand how you tolerate risk. Just ask yourself, what are you going to do? And just really be honest with yourself when the stocks are down, not when the stocks are just up, right? Because your neighbor told you that the stocks are going to, rise. And the second thing is start learning the basics, fundamentals of the financial market. And then maybe the third thing, just add one thing, just maybe decide how much of your current income you can allocate to specific stocks or your any other investment, ventures that you're going to go on.
Since you've already elaborated on the first and second one, I want to go into a bit about the third one. How do you feel about the 50-30-20 rule, where 50% of your paycheck should be up to needs, 30 to wants, and 20 into investing?
I like it a lot.
You like it a lot?
It's a very simple system, right? But if you can't do 20, do 10, the main thing is consistency.
Of course.
The main thing, if you think you're going to start off like 50%, I'm going to allocate 50% every month, and then after 3 months you flame out. The main thing is to stick, keep saving money, don't overspend it, but just do it regularly, right? Keep that thing going on for like not a couple of months, because the real value is in the long term thing. So I think it's good to make sure that if you're saving money, keep saving money. It's good to have a backup plan. It's good to have some sort of like a safety net. So I like that one. I like 50-30-20. I like that. I actually used to follow it myself. I've adjusted my strategy right now based on my risk tolerance, on my current goals. So it's not 50-30-20, but I used to follow 50-30. But that's like a quick disclaimer. Investment is associated with risk. So this is not investment advice. I'm not gonna, but I do want to bring the fundamental things and just maybe look at it from a healthy financial strategy. So yeah, risk tolerance.
I see. Well, you also previously mentioned with the risk tolerance, you also noted that sustainable investing, but you also talked about the Wolf of Wall Street movie and stuff like that. How do you feel about social media investing? Do you think it's just a gag? Do you think people just lose money if they go on Reddit, go on to some sort of subreddit and just invest whatever people tell them to? Or
well, not necessarily you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
You could win some money, you could lose some money, just like any investment strategy.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a good point, and you're already understanding what I'm getting at, right, with risk tolerance. Whenever you go on this sort of website on Reddit, so you said social media investor, or your neighbor tells you that's a good stock, or et cetera, right? You have to just make sure that it, ask yourself these particular fundamental questions. Why do I want to invest in this particular stock? Why do I feel it's good for me? Does it work with my risk tolerance? Can I tolerate the risk of investing in this particular product? Whenever these questions come up, so I think in the investment world, whenever you're working in the investment world, a lot of people just, I get bombarded with these, the same questions over and over again. Is this a good stock? Is this going to go up or going to go down? Would it be a good idea? And these questions are really, really difficult to answer, because investing is an individual thing, right? If we knew that, we'd probably, we could probably, I would invest into something if I knew it was a surefire thing. So whenever people ask me these sort of questions, it's so difficult to answer them because this is such an individual question, right? It's almost like someone, would come up to me and say, hey, should I marry this person? Well, I don't know nothing about you. I don't know what your parents think of them. What are your, financial goals? Or how are you going to feel if they, break up with you in 5 years, etc. But the people come up to me and then go, should I buy this particular stock? Do you think it's going to go up? Should I sell right now? I have, it's a very particular question. It's an individual decision, right? And it takes even professionals sit down and they still make a lot of misses, right? So you have to, that's what I always boils down. What risk can you tolerate? Does it fit your investment strategy? It's a very individual thing. That's why, on every podcast I go or interview, I'm invited. I can never tell, like, this is a good investment opportunity right now or this is a bad investment opportunity right now. It's a very individual thing.
I mean, I feel like it boils down to the second point that you mentioned, like when someone asks you something about a niche stock, you haven't done the research, you don't know the context on the stock, and that's why it's so hard to invest.
Of course, and I don't know that particular person's, situation right now.
Yeah, you don't know their financial plans.
I have no idea, so there are some like traditional things that when people ask traditionally, some people argue that, like, for instance, bonds are a safer option, but it also boils down to, whether or not that works with your investment strategy. So it's a very individual thing, and it's very difficult. And I would never want to advise, publicly or anywhere on an interview, this or that, because that's just, I wouldn't think that's a really good, a good approach. That's my perspective.
What I want to also go back to about.
Go ahead.
The thing we were talking about here.
Of course.
Since our audience is still the ISM students.
Yep.
What do you think? You mentioned risk tolerance, yes, but usually whenever students think about investing, they say, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't know how much should I invest. Like, what is a minimum baseline to start investing? $10, $100, $1,000? Like, what should be like the minimum baseline so where you can start doing research and actually see some sort of usage out of investing?
I mean, there's no sort of like minimum, right? I think that let's maybe shift this perspective a little bit. The main thing of investing is I think people love compound interest, right?
Of course.
So hop on a compound interest calculator. Put in, let's say you would put in $30 and just see in that particular like stock that you chose and see if it works for you, right? But there's no sort of like minimum. I think you could start with $30 if you want to, 30 euros if you want to. There's the consistency is rather, the key.
So as you mentioned, it's not the money that's the problem, it's the consistency that you need to look at.
Yep, and just following through, being very healthy about your strategy. Speaking with a professional, making sure that, your risk tolerance is there, and et cetera, et cetera. So, so I think that when people say minimum, me personally, if I were to go back to my days as an ISM student, I wish I spent more time investing.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
When the years go by, as you said, with compound, it's very marginal. So.
Yeah, or I could have lost it all. You never know. You don't know which stocks I could have. I would have picked. But there's some people when investing. Some of them, some people want to win on specific stocks. Some people want to go for compound interest. Some people are saving for the first apartment to buy. So they're maybe just saving money, right? Yeah. So it's very difficult to advise once again how to start. But I would say that there's no sort of like minimum starting investing or saving money. Even saving money. Let's make it more simple, right? Would it be good if I saved 20 euros every month or every 2 months? And as a student, based on my current income, of course it would. I mean, personally, I think if you're just saving money, not even just putting it there, that's my perspective, right?
I mean, save money that you save is still saved money.
Of course, yep. So that's why, because I used to spend it all. When I was a student here, I didn't save nothing.
Fair enough. I mean, no. One more thing I want to talk about. You also mentioned the second part where it's just context and research about every single stock. Investing is still such a rapid environment where there's so many changes that can happen. Like, what do you feel is the best tools or skills to help adapt to this environment? Is it just something you're going to get over time, or is it something that you need to keep in mind?
just learn the fundamentals of the financial markets.
Nice.
Learn the fundamentals of the financial markets. Understand all the financial instruments that are available to you, right? Just understand that, and then and then make your when you have the proper knowledge, then you feel, whenever you're knowledgeable about something, you're going to feel safer in your decisions. Speak with a professional. I mean, like, for real. It's really good to speak with a professional, right? It's like have somebody you can talk to that's been in the business for a long while and can help you out.
Okay, so finally, you also mentioned that if you were a student again, that you would say these tips and something like, what would you give to the ISM students now? What tips would you tell them if they want to start investing?
Investing?
Yeah.
I'll just repeat myself. Just make sure you do proper research and reach out to a professional. If you know, I can't give any specific advice.
No.
Any specific advice in terms of stocks or etc. No way. But I can tell you that it's good to learn the fundamentals. It's good to understand your risk tolerance. It's good to speak with a professional. It's good to have a plan. A plan.
Okay, so that's all with investments. Now I want to ask you, what tips would you give to ISM students in terms of their career path and their internships and stuff like that?
Of course, yeah. So looking back, I think that it's your direct sort of like team leader, your direct manager is really important. Find something that you like to do, and make sure that you really have someone that takes an interest in working with you, helping you out and developing you. Looking back on my career, when I was working at Nord Security or any other companies, as a young person, I think I didn't take advantage of the wonderful leaders that I had at the company, right? As a young person. So that's one of my mistakes now, looking back, and I try to take those opportunities, take up these opportunities today, not to miss them, in my current line of work. Just learn from the smart people that are above me or are just next to me. So make sure you find a great leader that works with you and helps you out. Don't be afraid to make more mistakes.
Yeah,
I think just really, I mean, it's so cheesy, right? I watched too much Gary Vaynerchuk, but I think when I was younger, I didn't know what to do, like what I wanted to do as a student. But I think what really helped me out is just tried everything. Your first job doesn't have to be your last job. Your first internship, just go for it. Just try it out. Just try it out, and once you start tasting things, you're gonna start learning, which of these things are working for you. What do you like? So I think really appreciate a good manager when you find one. Work with them, try to get as much as possible as you can for them, and try try different things, and then I think nothing substitutes proper hard work that you do, that you enjoy, that you can sit down and feel like I did something good today. I think when I was looking back, I think when I was a student, I wanted to do things perfectly without even making any mistakes, to impress my boss, to impress my coworkers. And then I would get into this thing called sort of like decision paralysis, analysis paralysis. That way you just keep analyzing, just making sure everything is perfect, right? In reality, I saw people in the workplace and in the business, just building businesses, they mess up, they launch something imperfectly, somebody tells them, oh, this is terrible, somebody tells them this is good, they go again, they go for it, and I wish I've done more of that. So I really hope for anybody, for any student that's listening to this, don't focus on being perfect, focus on getting things done, make sure you did an honest day's work, and then learn from that, because those learnings are better than anything that you're going to get from analysis paralysis. The quickest way to further your career is to get better at things, and to get better at things, you have to actually do them. And when you're going to do them, you're going to make mistakes, and if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're not going to do them. We're not going to get better, and somebody who doesn't care about that is going to get better at it. And then it's not necessarily they're going to take your spot, but it's just gonna be a shitty feeling.
Well, that's life.
That's life.
Okay, so thank you. Happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for staying until the end. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us for any new uploads.